Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The first crack in my marriage didn't start with a fight. It started with silence. Megan stopped laughing the way she used to. Our home, once filled with small jokes and late-night takeout dinners, became a quiet battlefield of polite nods and half-finished conversations. I'd tell her about a new client or a tricky blueprint at my small architecture firm, and she'd just smile without looking up from her phone. "That's great, Luke," she'd say, thumb still scrolling. Then she'd slip away to take a work call that somehow lasted till midnight. I told myself it was stress. Her job as a marketing director at a luxury brand was demanding. Deadlines, clients, image, she thrived in that chaos. And I admired that about her once. She was sharp, ambitious, radiant. But lately, that ambition felt redirected. One evening, I got home early, an unusual thing for me. The sky outside still held a hint of daylight, and I thought maybe we could have dinner together for once. I even stopped by her favorite Thai place, picked up takeout, and poured a glass of white wine. But she wasn't home. Her text came an hour later. "Running late. Client meeting. Don't wait up." The food went cold. The wine stayed untouched. That was the third meeting that week. I started noticing things. Her perfume lingering in the car, though she claimed she'd taken a cab to work. Lipstick smudged slightly, but not faded the way it would be after a long day. Then there were the changes in her tone. The quick anger if I asked where she was. The way she smiled while texting, only to flip her phone face down the moment I walked in. Still, I didn't confront her. Love makes fools patient. I told myself it was paranoia, that we'd just grown apart because of work, not because of someone else. But one Saturday morning shattered that illusion completely. She said she had a full-day training workshop. I believed her until her colleague, Jenna, accidentally called me to ask if Megan was joining them for brunch. Brunch, not training. I didn't react right away. I played along, thanked Jenna for calling, and hung up. My pulse was racing. That's when I realized I'd been living on autopilot, ignoring every sign because I didn't want the truth to be real. The next few days, I stopped trusting her words and started observing her actions. I checked her location once. She was at the office, but the map showed a downtown restaurant. I didn't say anything that night. Instead, I started planning. Not for a confrontation, for confirmation. A week later, opportunity knocked on its own. I had a meeting scheduled with a potential client near the same downtown area. As I wrapped up, I noticed the time, 7:45 p.m., and thought about Megan's text from earlier that evening. "Can't talk right now. Big work meeting at the restaurant near the river." The coincidence was too sharp to ignore. I decided to stop pretending. I walked to that restaurant. The lights glowed warm through the glass windows, laughter spilling out with the clink of wine glasses. Inside, couples leaned across tables, whispering and smiling under amber light. And there, in the far corner, Megan. She looked beautiful, confident. Her dark hair framed her face perfectly. That soft smile she used to save for me now aimed at a man across from her. He was tall, well-dressed, with that corporate slickness she always admired. Their hands brushed when he passed her a glass of wine. I froze. Every sound around me blurred into a low hum. My pulse thudded in my ears. And then my phone buzzed. Her text lit up the screen. "Can't talk right now. I'm in a work meeting." I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening around the phone. For a long second, I just stood there, staring at the message. Then a slow, bitter calm settled over me. I typed back, "That's strange. I'm in the same restaurant." I watched her from across the room as the message delivered. She laughed at something the man said. Then her phone buzzed. Her eyes flicked down. The smile vanished. Her shoulders stiffened. She looked up, straight at me. The color drained from her face so fast, it was like watching a light die. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The phone trembled in her hand, just slightly, before she set it down like it had burned her. The man followed her gaze, puzzled, then turned toward me. His brow furrowed, confusion twisting into something defensive as he realized who I was. I didn't move, didn't speak, just held her stare. The moment stretched until even the waiter stopped mid-step, sensing the electricity in the air. Finally, I turned away, walked out through the glass doors without a word. Outside, the night air hit me like ice. My chest was tight, but my mind sharper than ever. I knew she'd follow. I knew she'd have excuses. And I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because if she thought she could humiliate me quietly, she was about to learn what it felt like to be seen. And I make sure of it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty pillow beside me, the faint trace of her perfume still lingering in the sheets. Every minute, my mind replayed the scene, the look on her face when she realized she'd been caught. That mixture of shock, fear, and guilt burned itself into my memory. She came home around midnight, trying to be quiet, as if silence could erase what I'd seen. I didn't look up when the door creaked open. My hands rested on my knees, still and calm, though my heart was pounding. "Luke," she whispered, voice trembling. "I can explain." "Then start," I said flatly. She hesitated, clutching her purse like it was a shield. "It wasn't what it looked like. I swear it was just dinner. Work-related." I let out a dry laugh. "Work-related? That's your story." Her eyes glistened, and she nodded too fast. "He's just a client. I didn't want to upset you. That's why I didn't mention it." "Megan," I said, looking at her squarely, "you've been lying for weeks. The perfume, the late-night meetings, the sudden phone calls outside. You can't tell me this is innocent." She dropped her gaze, fumbling for words. I just needed someone to talk to. You've been distant lately." There was the shift, the blame. Somehow, my long hours, my effort to keep our lives comfortable, had become the reason she found comfort in someone else's arms. "Don't do that," I said, standing up slowly. "Don't twist this into something I caused." She flinched, but didn't deny it. Her silence was confirmation enough. That night, she cried herself to sleep on the couch. I lay awake in our bed, staring at the ceiling, every memory now tainted. The anniversary trips, the inside jokes, the way she used to rest her head on my chest, they all felt staged now, rehearsed for a version of me that didn't exist anymore. By morning, the anger had cooled into something colder. Calculation. Megan thought I'd storm out, maybe yell, maybe file for divorce in a burst of emotion. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. If she wanted to play deceitful games, I'd end them with precision. I got up early, showered, and left before she woke. At the office, I called an old college friend, Aaron, a lawyer who specialized in family law. I told him everything, every detail. He didn't sound surprised. "You'd be shocked how often this happens," he said. "You want revenge, Luke? Do it smart, quietly. Make sure when you walk away, you take back everything she took for granted." That advice stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, I played the part of the forgiving husband. I smiled when she asked how work was. I nodded when she suggested date nights. She thought the silence meant I'd moved on. She didn't realize I was documenting everything. Messages, call logs, financial transfers. I discovered she'd been transferring small amounts of money to a private account, under a name that matched the man from the restaurant, Derek Fields. Apparently, their meetings weren't just emotional. He was her company's regional manager, and she'd been using her position to fund his side business. That was the breaking point. I decided to hit where it would hurt most, not her heart, but her reputation. One Friday evening, she told me she had another late client meeting. I smiled, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "You're working too hard, Meg. Don't burn yourself out." She smiled back, believing she'd won me over. As soon as she left, I drove to her office. Aaron's investigator had given me access to her company calendar and emails. I printed every piece of proof, the fake invoices, the payments, the personal notes she sent Derek using her work account. The next morning, I requested a private appointment with her company's board of directors. I presented everything, every lie, every stolen cent. I told them I wasn't there as her husband. I was there as someone who had watched her betray trust at home and at work. They were furious, silent. Then one of them said, "Mr. Parker, we'll handle this internally. Thank you for bringing it to our attention." I left the office feeling nothing. No joy, no sadness, just peace. 2 days later, she came home early, eyes red, hands trembling. They fired me, she whispered. Someone told them. Someone showed them everything. I looked up from the coffee I was stirring. That's awful, I said calmly. You did this, didn't you? I tilted my head slightly. Why would I do that, Megan? I thought you were just helping a client. Her breath hitched. You're enjoying this. I finally met her gaze. No, I said. I'm learning from it. You taught me something important. That trust, once broken, doesn't heal. It rots. She tried to cry again, maybe to evoke sympathy, but it didn't work this time. That spark of control she once had over me was gone. That night, I packed her things into 2 suitcases and left them by the door. When she woke the next morning, she found a note taped to the handle. You said you needed someone to talk to. Now you've got all the time in the world. I didn't hear from her for weeks after that. But revenge, I realized, wasn't about ruining her life. It was about reclaiming mine. And I wasn't finished yet, because the final part of my plan was still waiting in silence. 3 weeks passed after Megan's downfall, and I could finally breathe again. The house felt lighter without her rehearsed apologies echoing through the rooms. I went back to work, buried myself in projects, and tried to remember what peace used to feel like. But no matter how busy I kept myself, there was one thing I couldn't stop thinking about: how easily she had fooled me, how deeply I had trusted her. I wasn't looking for more revenge, not at first. I just wanted closure. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of timing. One afternoon, while reviewing blueprints at a cafe near downtown, I heard a familiar voice from a nearby table. My stomach tightened before I even looked up. Megan. Her tone was low, shaky, as she spoke to someone on the phone. No, Derek, they're not rehiring me. I told you I'd get another job soon. Just stop yelling. I froze, listening. The same man she threw everything away for, now shouting at her over the phone. The bitterness in his tone cut even through her forced calm. You used me, he snapped loud enough for everyone around to hear. You promised me connections. You're broke now. What am I supposed to do with that? Megan's eyes welled up, her shoulders trembling. She muttered something about love, about second chances. Then she hung up, head bowed, trying to hide her face behind her hair. A strange mixture of satisfaction and pity stirred in me. I wanted her to feel what betrayal was like, and now she did. But the moment should have felt triumphant. Instead, it just felt hollow. Still, part of me wasn't done yet. She hadn't just betrayed me as a husband. She'd humiliated me publicly. She'd let people at her office gossip, let Derek treat me like the clueless fool. I couldn't change what she'd done, but I could decide how it ended. That night, I went through the backup files I'd kept, photos of her with Derek, the receipts, the text logs. I hadn't used them during the board meeting. I didn't need to, but they were proof of how far she'd gone. I didn't want to leak them to the world. That would have been cruel. Instead, I decided on something more precise, something poetic. I drafted a professional letter to her company's investors, the ones whose accounts she'd handled directly. I wrote about integrity, loyalty, and how betrayal, both in business and in life, destroys more than reputations. It destroys trust. I didn't mention her name. I didn't have to. Everyone already knew who it was about. The letter went viral within her professional circle. Colleagues reposted it, discussing ethics and leadership. Megan became the unspoken example. Her name whispered in hallways, her story told as a cautionary tale in boardrooms. I didn't ruin her. She ruined herself. I simply held up the mirror. A week later, she showed up at my office. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her once perfectly styled hair now tied back loosely. Can we talk? She asked softly. I gestured toward the empty chair across from my desk. Go ahead. She sat, twisting her wedding ring nervously. I know you hate me, she began, and you have every reason to, but I want you to know I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my savings. Derek's gone. I'm nothing now. Her voice cracked. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. Megan, I said calmly, you're not nothing. You're someone who made choices. Choices have consequences. She wiped her eyes. I know. I don't know how to fix it. Maybe start by being honest with yourself, I said, leaning forward. You didn't just lie to me. You lied to yourself. Every day, pretending you were happy while chasing someone else's attention. You built your own trap. She sniffled, eyes glistening. I still love you, Luke. Even after all this. That line, so predictable, so rehearsed, made me realize how little she'd changed. I smiled faintly. Love isn't about saying it when you've lost everything. It's about showing it when you have something to lose. For a while, we sat in silence. She stared at her hands. I studied her like she was a stranger, because that's exactly what she'd become. Finally, I stood up. I wish you well, Megan. Truly. But we're done. Her lips trembled. So that's it. That's it, I said, opening the door. We both move on. You with your lessons. Me with my peace. She hesitated in the doorway, her voice breaking. You really got your revenge, didn't you? I met her eyes one last time. No, I said quietly. I got my clarity. When she left, it felt final. Like the last page of a long, painful chapter had finally been turned. I didn't feel like the man she broke. I felt like the man she forged. That evening, I drove to the same restaurant where everything had fallen apart. I ordered a drink, sat by the window, and watched the city lights flicker across the river. For the first time in months, I didn't think about her face in that booth or her phone shaking in her hand. I thought about the future, the one I'd rebuild on my own terms. A waitress passed by, offering a warm smile. I smiled back. It wasn't flirtation, just a quiet acknowledgement of something simple and human. Hope. Revenge hadn't restored what I'd lost, but it reminded me who I was before her lies defined me. And that was enough. Months passed, and life slowly began to reshape itself into something peaceful. The anger that once lived in my chest had faded into a quiet determination to rebuild. Better, stronger, and without bitterness. My work picked up again. New clients came in, referrals multiplied, and for the first time in years, I had the freedom to focus entirely on my craft. The nights were the hardest. The silence of an empty home could feel like a reminder, but over time, it started to feel like a gift. I cooked my own dinner, play old records, sketch designs late into the night. There is something comforting about rediscovering myself without someone constantly pretending to understand me. Then one day, while meeting a client in a cafe, I saw Megan again. She was sitting alone near the window, staring out at the street like she was waiting for something or someone that never came. Her posture was smaller somehow, her energy dimmer. She looked nothing like the confident woman who once turned heads at business events. Our eyes met. For a moment, time froze. She gave a faint, unsure smile, half apology, half memory. I nodded politely, nothing more. There was no hate left in me, just distance. The storm had passed. She stood, hesitated, and walked over. You look good, she said quietly, trying to sound casual. So do you. I lied softly. There was a long pause before she said, I heard you're doing well. New projects, new clients. I'm happy for you. I gave a small nod. Yeah, life's steady now. She smiled sadly. You always were the steady one. That line hit me like an echo from another life. Once she'd said the same thing, but had been with admiration back then, not regret. Now it just sounded tired. She looked down at her hands. I've been thinking about everything that happened. I know I can't undo it, but I'm sorry, Luke. I really am. Her voice was genuine, but it didn't move me the way it once would have. I'd waited so long to hear those words, but by the time they came, I didn't need them anymore. I know, I said simply. I forgave you a while ago. Her eyes widened a little. You did? Yeah, I replied. Not for you, for me. I didn't want to keep carrying it. She nodded slowly, biting her lip as tears threatened to fall. I don't blame you for hating me. I don't hate you, I said. You taught me what I won't accept again. That's not hate. That's growth. We stood there for a while, two people who once built a life together, now strangers connected only by lessons. She finally whispered, Take care of yourself, and walked away. I watched her leave, her reflection vanishing in the glass door like a chapter closing for good. That night, I sat by the window of my apartment, the same city lights flickering in the distance. But this time, the silence wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. I realized revenge hadn't been the real victory. Redemption had, because while she lost everything trying to chase excitement, I'd found something far rarer: peace, clarity, and the strength to start again. A week later, I got an email from a young architect named Claire. She just opened her own firm and wanted to collaborate on a new housing project. Her message was warm, professional, and full of energy. Something about it felt different, refreshing, honest. We met for coffee to discuss ideas. She was genuine, bright-eyed, passionate about her work. The conversation wasn't about the past or pain. It was about dreams, design, and purpose. For the first time, I felt something new blooming inside me. Not love yet, but the quiet possibility of it. As we parted, she smiled and said, "You know, you have a calm way about you. It's rare." I chuckled. Comes with surviving a few storms. She laughed softly. "Then maybe we'll build something that lasts." And for the first time in a long while, I believed it. Because sometimes life doesn't give you happy endings. It gives you clean slates. And that was more than enough.